Once upon a time, in a small, peaceful African village, there was a woman named Zai. She was known for her beauty, her intelligence, and most of all, her kindness. She was a wife to Jabari, a hardworking and loving man, and a mother to two wonderful children, Amani and Kito. Zai's home was once filled with laughter, early morning giggles, playful footsteps running through the house, and long evening talks under the glow of the lantern. But then, things changed. It started slowly, like a quiet whisper in the wind. First, it was just a few moments on her phone. A quick check on messages. A glance at a funny video. Then, a little scrolling here, a little scrolling there. But as the days passed, those few moments turned into hours. And soon, those hours turned into her entire world. One evening, Zai sat on the couch, her eyes glued to her phone screen. The room was filled with the soft chatter of her family, but she was lost in a different world, the world behind the screen. "Mama, look at this." Amani beamed, holding up a beautiful drawing of their family. Zai barely glanced up. "Just a moment, my dear," she said, tapping away at her screen. Amani's little face fell, but she forced a smile and walked away, holding the drawing close to her chest. At the dinner table, Jabari set down a steaming pot of food and looked at his wife. "Zai, come eat with us," he called. "I'll be there in a minute," she replied. But the minute turned into 10, then 20. By the time she finally sat down, the food was cold, and the conversation had already faded into silence. Jabari sighed but said nothing. The children stared down at their plates, pushing their food around with their spoons. Zai didn't notice. She was busy responding to comments on a post. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Zai no longer laughed at Jabari's jokes. She no longer played with Amani and Kito. Even Mama Kazi, her elderly mother, watched with sadness as her daughter became a stranger in her own home. One day, Mama Kazi sat beside her. "My child," she said gently, "the people inside that phone, they cannot love you like the ones sitting in this house." Zai chuckled, shaking her head. "Mama, you worry too much. It's just social media. I am still here." But was she? Jabari no longer told her about his day. The children no longer ran to her with their little stories. And the house no longer felt like a home. And yet, Zai didn't see it. Not until the day she needed them, but they weren't there. One night, Zai sat in bed, staring at her screen. She had just read something that made her sad. It was a post about love, about connection. And suddenly, she longed for that warmth, that presence. She reached for Jabari. But he only gave a small, distracted nod. "Mememech, yeah," he muttered, turning away. She called Amani and Kito. But they were playing by themselves, their laughter no longer reaching out for her. For the first time in a long time, Zai put her phone down. She looked around the room. Silence. Loneliness. The home that once felt full now felt empty. It was then that she finally realized. She had everything technology could offer, but she had lost everything she truly needed. Tears welled up in her eyes. The next morning, Zai made a decision. She turned off her phone. She walked into the living room where her family sat, lost in their own silence. With a trembling voice, she said, "I'm sorry." Jabari looked up. Amani and Kito stared. Even Mama Kazi watched carefully. Zai knelt beside them, her eyes full of regret. "I have been here, but I have not been present. And in chasing a world behind a screen, I lost the world right in front of me." Amani was the first to move. She threw her little arms around her mother. Kito followed. Jabari sighed, then smiled. He took her hands in his and squeezed them gently. Mama Kazi, wise as ever, only nodded. "Now, my child, you understand." Love is not in a device. It is in the hands that hold yours, in the eyes that look at you, and in the voices that call your name. Zai smiled, her heart full for the first time in a long time. From that day on, the phone was no longer the most important thing in Zai's hands. It was the hands of her husband. The small fingers of her children. The warm grip of her mother. Because some things can wait, but love cannot.